The name's Dash, and I'm here to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 3. So, before I dive into the good, bad, and the ugly, I'm going to have to first give you a brief summary of this episode. So, first thing first, Falcon and Winter Soldier try to use the help of Zemo to find out the super soldiers and where they're going with the serum. And what I mean by super soldiers are the flag smashers. So if you remember who Zemo was, he was the villain from Civil War, who was the one to break up the Avengers in the first place, and that's why they lost in Infinity War, which I'm going to talk about soon. But yeah, that's what they really do. Like they just team up basically, and try to find out super soldiers who are the flag smashers, who are now stealing the super soldier serums from the power broker. And that's speaking of power broker, that's actually the name of this episode, which is interesting because we actually still don't know who power broker is, even though we at least have a clue that he's gonna be the main villain of this entire show. But coming back to that later. At the same time, whilst Falcon and the Winter Soldier, along with Zemo, are searching for these flag smashers, we also have John Walker, aka the U.S. agent, who's for now Captain America, but actually his comic book name is U.S. Agent. If you did not know that, along with his sidekick Lamar Hoskins. Lamar Hoskins. Okay, try to correct me if I'm wrong. Whose superhero name is, or his alter ego is Battlestar, I believe. At the same time, you also have them, searching for the flag smashers with a super soldier serum, because once again, for the same reason, they actually stole those serums, so they're trying to find out, where they are, and they're going to probably interrogate them. And of course, like as usual, this video will contain spoilers. And moving on to the good now. First of all, let's talk about Baron Zemo. He was like the best part of this episode, I have to be honest. And speaking of this episode, I think this episode was also the best episode so far, better than both the last two episodes. And it just shows how this show is just improving consistently. And getting back to Zemo. Okay, before we talk about him in this particular episode, first we have to like respect Baron Zemo for what he did in Civil War. Given the fact that he's just a simple human being with no superpowers, he has some military training, but he has no superpowers. He has no army like Ultron, Loki, or even like Thanos did, and yet he didn't just like split up the Avengers, but he literally shattered them, like actually shattered them. That too just with one small simple footage of Bucky killing Tony Stark's parents. And that itself like split up the core of the Avengers, who are Iron Man and Captain America. And because of them, the Avengers was literally shattered. Like you had like Captain America on the run. Then even Iron Man also like went up in space, and whatever happened in Infinity War, and like they got split up, and that's how even Thanos won in the first place. And all these problems happened to Snap, and then the blip, which again caused more problems, which they focus on the show, and so on. And yes, of course, the performance by Daniel Bru was just phenomenal. I have to be honest, like just the way he just talks, and like the dialogue he has, his facial expressions, and just the character arc of his as a whole was just really satisfying to watch. Like they just like had so many callbacks to Civil War, just because they brought Baron Zemo in. If you saw the chemistry of Baron Zemo and Bucky Barnes at the beginning of the episode, where like Baron Zemo says those Russian words to Bucky just to see how he would react, even though he knew Bucky wasn't brainwashed anymore, and all those stuff. It just it was just fun to see him with Bucky, especially like in the last episode. It was great to see the chemistry between Bucky and Sam, but in this episode, I'm sorry, like it was instead of Sam, it was Zemo whose chemistry was better with Bucky. In so many different ways. Like you have like Bucky and Zemo so similar to each other, given the fact that they have like history with Hydra, and then you also have like Bucky just rescue Zemo, and it was hilarious to see Bucky give that hypothetical situation to Sam Wilson. What if Zemo escape like this, and then you suddenly have Zemo in front of him, and like you see Sam's reaction, like, wait, why is he here? He should be in jail, and it was just hilarious. Even though like it's kind of like risky to have Zemo off loose, given the fact that then later on in the episode we see like Zemo playing it with both their minds, like annoying both of them, You see like Zemo like talking about Nakajima, whom Bucky felt guilty for killing, and Bucky you have him like really mad at him about like strangling him. And just seeing just Zemo just like continuously like playing with their minds just showed like the true character of Zemo. And overall it was just great to see this show, this episode specifically, diving into Zemo's character in depth, because we didn't get that opportunity in Civil War. And speaking of diving into Zemo's character into depth, we also saw Zemo was actually a rich person. He wasn't just some simple dude with a simple family, because we also saw his car, his private jet. We also saw like royal suit. I think the reason for that was because he was a baron, which is interesting. So it seems like the barons are supposed to be a very rich family in Sokovia, which is interesting given the fact that the country is not no more, but he still has the wealth, which is quite fortunate for him. At least the wealth has him, like where he is. And and obviously the another interesting thing about Zemo was how because if you remember in Civil War how he framed Bucky, another callback to Civil War, he frames Bucky for T'Challa's father's death, who was T'Chaka. And if you remember, there's a scene where the UN gets bombed and then T'Chaka dies. That was all Zemo, but then he framed Bucky, and like just seeing and then like seeing these two characters back again with Bucky, he's now his blood is really boiling given the fact that Zemo actually framed him, and he created all this mess that whatever happened before Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And then you suddenly have this member from the Dora Milaje, which is like a Wakanda, like group, like a defense group, like that fights along with Black Panther, I think. The name of the character is Ayo, if you remember from the episode, how they have like come to search for Zemo, which is going to be interesting to see what happens to Zemo next, given the fact that now Wakanda is after him, now that has been let loose. And obviously the reason why they're after him is because they killed the king of Wakanda, the former king of Wakanda. Now it's just going to be interesting to see what Zemo fate going to be like. It's just a very interesting thing. And then obviously the second thing is just Madripoor, the city from the X-Men comics, I believe, which was in on this episode. It was just the visuals of that scene of the entire city was just like amazing. Like I don't know what to say. Like all those lights and all those characters. Just seeing like the concept of Madripoor, which is like basically a black market, I believe, where they had all those kind of different illegal stuff they're selling. Then you have the scene where Falcon has to or Sam Wilson has to force himself to drink this cocktail with like snake parts in it, like the snake intestine or something, because he was playing this comic book character called Smiling Tiger. That was the name, which we haven't seen in this episode, but I think they're going to show it later on. And another callback to Civil War was when Sharon Carter comes in, because we get to learn that Sharon Carter wasn't pardoned because she assisted Steve Rogers, and everyone who assisted Steve Rogers were like like a fugitive, and but then like everyone else were pardoned, like Sam Wilson, who also assisted Steve Rogers, was pardoned, but she did not get pardoned, and that's why she was also on the run, and that's why she came to Madripoor in the first place. And the way she enters was just epic, just seeing like how she just like kills people who were trying to kill Falcon, Bucky, or Sam Wilson, Bucky, and Baron Zemo. And the reason why they get killed, right, because they kill Selby, I think. So that's why they have like a price on their head. Now they have to get killed. That scene specifically reminds me of the movie John Wick 3, because even in John Wick 3, if you watch the movie, there's also a scene similar to the scene in the Falcon and Winter Soldier, where John Wick has a price on his head where people are hunting him to kill him. So a lot of it, like that, it just reminded me of that, and I'm pretty sure it also reminded you of that scene if you have watched John Wick 3. If not, you should check it out. It was a great movie. Now, these are the good parts about this show, I would say. Unless there's anything else. I don't think there was anything else, but this was what the show was mainly about. Most of the show was about this. The city of Madripoor, and just Bucky, Falcon, and Winter Soldier, sure. Falcon is Sam Wilson and Winter Soldier is Bucky Barnes. And how they're just trying to catch up with each other ever since Civil War. It's like, there's also like a dialogue from that episode where like, Sharon Carter, she sums up, what happened in Civil War. Is like, she tries to save Falcon, who tried to save Bucky Barnes from Baron Zemo, which was actually true. and it didn't, that dialogue was exactly what happened in, like, whatever that dialogue was about, like whatever she said in the dialogue was exactly what happened in Civil War, and it was a great way to sum it up. Now, moving on to the bad. Okay, this episode was so good, like even better than first and second episode. Like I said, it was hard for me to find out a bad thing, but I just had one small problem with the movie with this episode. That was just like the same problem with John Walker. I think it was more about like John Walker's like lack of screen time. Like I know like people hate him as a new Captain America, but it is really interesting to see like what all new things he's going to bring as Captain America, and but then unfortunately he didn't have enough screen time in on this episode. He's just like there for like few 7 minutes. Like he comes in, has a very aggressive entrance where he's trying to search for the flag smashers, but then like there's no one cooperating with him, so then he gets very aggressive. He tries to he almost tries to beat one of the German person up. After that German person spits on him. Like he like what is he like, do you know who I am? He said something like that, but then it's like it's not even like that scary, or like he isn't really that much of a powerful looking character like Steve Rogers was as Captain America. I can understand why people won't take him seriously, but I have to be honest, I'm still looking forward to John Walker. And another negative point of this episode was just seeing this chemistry between Lamar Hoskins and John Walker. Like even looking at Lamar Hoskins, like even though he's like his I don't know what to say, a partner, if not a friend, just like like a working, like a work partner or something like that, if that's what we can call him. But his chemistry with John Walker isn't even that interesting. He just tries to act loyal in front of him, just follows his order, but then there's no like any interesting interaction with him, like something that can be like more personal about them or anything. He just calls him captain. He just does whatever he tells him, but without like making any big deal. Just like just simply follows order, which was kind of bland in my opinion. I wish we could see like more interesting, like the chemistry between these two characters like grow a little bit more. Now moving on to the ugly, it's another problem with John Walker. Just looking at how John Walker is the darker version of Captain America. Basically, it's like how Homelander is to Superman, how he's like the darker version of Superman. If you don't know who Homelander is, he's from this show called The Boys, which is another classic show. I recommend you to watch it. But he's also like he's just like the Homelander of Captain America, like darker version of Captain America. He does everything Captain America does in a more brutal manner, and along with that, well, I don't know what to say. Maybe it's not his fault, given the fact that he just works for the government. He follows the government's orders even more. He's more loyal to the government. Therefore, whatever the government tells him, he does. He even had a gun in the second episode, the previous episode, which is nothing like Steve Rogers. And he just does everything what Steve Rogers does, just in a more brutal manner, which just makes me very skeptical about him, in the future, like what kind of actions he's going to take and what kind of like consequences he's going to have to face. Just yeah, I'm not really sure about his character, whether I'm going to like him that much, but at the same time, I'm just looking forward to know what kind of steps he's going to take to be the next symbol of the country America as Captain America. Otherwise, I think that was really it for this video, and thank you for watching, and see you next time. And of course, last but not least, if you haven't been watching this show, I highly recommend you to watch the show. I don't think you'll regret it. Once again, see you next time.